The night was quiet, the sky calm and full of stars, Doctor. Evan Cross sat alone in his small observatory. Staring through the telescope, he had always loved silence. It made him forget that he was just one lonely human on a spinning world. But that night something strange happened. His computer beeped again and again, the screen filled with symbols he had never seen before. They glowed like liquid silver, moving and shaping into words. One clear sentence appeared, written in perfect English. "We seek one human male." Evan's heart skipped. He blinked, thinking it was some kind of prank. But then every other screen in the world showed the same message. Phones, televisions, digital billboards, and all said the same words. The whole planet froze. Within hours, the world governments declared a global emergency. The United Nations called it first contact. No one knew where the message came from. But the scientists said it was not from Earth. It came from deep space, from a dying star system 30 light years away. Evan received a call from the government's space division. They told him his work on alien biology made him the best candidate to join a secret mission. He was told to pack his things and come immediately. He did not know what to expect, but his heart was racing with both fear and excitement. When he arrived at the secret base hidden in the desert, the guards took his devices and led him into a white room. Inside, a large glass chamber stood in the center. Filled with glowing mist behind the glass, something moved, tall, graceful, and glowing blue. The air in the room felt heavy, as if the world was holding its breath. A female voice echoed softly through the speakers. "My name is Lyra, last survivor of the Valoran people." Her voice was calm, but there was pain in it. A deep sadness that made even the soldiers go silent. "My world is gone," she said. "My species cannot reproduce, our life is ending. But your kind, humans, carry something we have lost." Evan watched in awe. Her eyes were like two glowing oceans, her face almost human but too perfect. He felt both wonder and fear. She didn't seem like an invader. She seemed broken, desperate. He asked quietly, "What do you want from us?" Her gaze turned directly toward him, as if she could see through the glass and into his soul. "We seek one human husband," she said, "one who can help us survive." The entire room went silent. Everyone froze, not believing what they heard. The officer beside Evan laughed nervously, thinking it was some kind of translation error. But the alien repeated, "We seek one human husband for the sake of my people." Her tone was not romantic, not emotional. It was a command mixed with sorrow. Evan felt chills crawl up his spine. The scientist asked questions, but Lyra only spoke when Evan did. It was as if she had chosen him already, though he had no idea why. The more he looked at her, the more he felt something strange, like a connection forming between their thoughts. That night he couldn't sleep. He stared at the stars outside the base window, thinking about what she said, why him, and was this a test? Or was there really something special about his DNA? Early next morning, the officials gathered all the scientists. They had analyzed the alien signal and found it contained something else. Coordinates. It pointed to a hidden object orbiting the moon, something massive and cloaked. When their telescopes looked closer, they saw it. A ship the size of a city, silent and waiting. The alien, Lyra, looked up when she saw the image. She whispered in her language, then in English, "It is my home." She turned her eyes back to Evan and said, "You will come with me, or the message will change." Evan frowned. "Change to what?" he asked. She stared for a long moment before answering, her voice colder now. "If you refuse, Earth will die too." The soldiers in the room looked at each other in shock. Was it a threat or a warning? Before anyone could speak, the lights flickered, alarms rang. The sky outside glowed with a strange light. Something huge was entering Earth's orbit. Evan looked at the glowing sky and whispered. The message from the stars was never a request. It was a call, a demand. And somehow, he was already part of it. The next morning, the sky over the desert base was filled with strange colors. Lines of light shimmered in the air, like waves of electricity. Every radar on Earth showed the same thing. Something enormous was moving above the moon. The Valoran ship, silent and ancient, was waiting. Dr. Evan Cross stood in his white suit, his mind spinning with fear and questions. He had agreed to go, though he still didn't understand why. The officials called it a diplomatic mission, but deep inside he knew it was more. He was not just going to meet an alien. He was becoming part of something far bigger. Lyra appeared before him again, her silver blue eyes calm but sad. Her skin shimmered like glass under the sunlight. She wore a thin white robe that glowed faintly, made from something that looked alive. "Your world is beautiful," she said softly. "But dying in silence," Evan frowned. "What do you mean, dying?" Lyra tilted her head. "The air you breathe carries what we created long ago," she whispered. Her words made no sense, but they burned into his mind. A beam of light surrounded them. Lifting them slowly from the ground, the soldiers shouted. But Evan couldn't move. It felt like gentle water around his body. A few seconds later, the desert disappeared, replaced by darkness and a sea of stars. He was aboard the Veloran ship. The air smelled different, cool, clean, and sweet like rain. The walls glowed softly with living patterns that shifted like veins under skin. Lyra walked beside him, silent and graceful. "This ship remembers every soul who has walked its halls," she said, touching a wall gently. "Now it remembers you." Evan looked around. Amazed, every door opened like a flower blooming. Every hallway sang a faint tone as he walked. It didn't feel like metal. It felt alive. But what caught his attention most was the chamber ahead. It looked like a cathedral made of light. "This is the Hall of Union," Lyra said quietly. "Our people joined their life energy here to create new life." Evan froze. "You mean this is where your marriage will happen?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, our joining will begin soon." He felt a cold rush through his body. It wasn't a normal ceremony. Machines began to hum softly, and symbols appeared in the air, floating like glowing dust. Lyra walked to the center of the chamber and turned to face him. Her expression was calm, but her eyes hid something. "Do you fear me, Evan?" she asked. He hesitated. "I don't know what I feel." She smiled faintly, a smile that looked both human and alien. "Fear and love are the same. Both begin with the unknown," she said. Then she held out her hand. "Step forward." He stepped closer. The light around them grew stronger. Wrapping their bodies in golden mist, he felt warmth and then pressure. Like his heartbeat syncing with hers, images flashed before his eyes. Stars dying. Worlds burning, millions crying, he gasped. Falling to his knees. "What is this?" he whispered. Lyra whispered back. "Memory." He saw her world. Velora, full of tall silver trees and shining cities. He saw a dark cloud spreading through the sky, turning everything to dust. He saw Lyra holding a man, her husband, as he turned into light and vanished. Tears rolled down her glowing face. The vision ended, and Evan found himself trembling. "The plague destroyed our world," Lyra said, her voice shaking. "It was born from our pride. We played with life. And life turned against us." Evan looked at her. "You said the air of Earth carries what you created. What does that mean?" She didn't answer. She only said, "It means you and I are already connected." Suddenly, the ship trembled. Lights flickered red and a cold metallic voice filled the air. "Do not mix the blood again." Evan froze. "What was that?" Lyra's eyes widened. "The ship's guardian," she whispered. "The last echo of our ancient AI. It remembers the law we broke." The walls began to shift, glowing with angry light. The symbols in the air turned red, swirling like a storm. Lyra grabbed Evan's hand, pulling him away. "We must finish the ritual before it stops us," she said. They ran through shining corridors as the ship howled like a living creature in pain. Doors slammed shut, alarms echoed, Evan's heart pounded. "You said this ship remembers souls. What does it remember about you?" Lyra stopped and looked at him, her voice breaking. "It remembers that I was the one who killed my husband." Evan stared at her in disbelief. The walls went silent. The lights dimmed. Lyra's tears floated like glowing pearls in the air. "He died trying to stop me," she said softly. "I tried to save my people by creating hybrid life. He believed it was forbidden." The silence stretched. Heavy and endless, Evan wanted to speak, but his throat was dry. Lyra turned and looked out a crystal window, where Earth hung like a small blue marble below. "You still have a chance," she said, "to save both our worlds." He shook his head. "I'm just a man, not a savior." Her eyes glowed brighter. "Not anymore." Before he could ask what she meant, the light around them rose again. The ship's AI screamed, "The cycle will begin," and everything turned white. Evan felt his body lift from the floor, his blood burning like fire and ice together. Lyra's voice echoed faintly through the light. "Trust me, human," she whispered. "This is only the beginning." When Evan opened his eyes, He was no longer inside the glowing hall. He was lying on a soft silver bed surrounded by floating lights. The room was quiet except for a slow humming sound, like a heartbeat echoing through metal walls. He felt heavy, as if his body didn't belong to him anymore. Lyra stood beside him, her face calm but her hands shaking slightly. "You are awake," she said softly. Evan tried to sit up, but his arms felt weak. "What happened?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes flickered with something like guilt. "The ritual was incomplete," she whispered. "The ship rejected our union." He looked down at his skin. Faint blue lines glowed under it like threads of light moving with his pulse. "What did you do to me?" he asked, his voice trembling. Lyra looked away. "I saved you." "Saved me from what?" "From dying when our energy merged," she said. Her tone was soft, but Evan could feel the fear behind it. He tried to stand, but his balance was strange. The air felt thicker now, every sound sharper, every color brighter. It was as if his senses had multiplied. He looked into a mirror-like surface and froze. His eyes were no longer fully human. A faint blue glow circled his pupils, pulsing like a living code. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. Lyra stepped closer. "Your body is adapting." "To what?" "To me?" she said quietly. Evan stared at her, his heart racing. "You mean, you changed my DNA?" She hesitated. Not completely, only enough to survive the connection. He turned away, anger rising. "You had no right," he said. His voice shaking, Lyra's eyes softened. "If I hadn't, you would be dead." Evan looked at her. Torn between fury and confusion, he wanted to shout, but the truth was clear. He was alive because of her. He pressed his hand to the glass wall, trying to understand where he was outside. He saw a sea of fire and red light. Massive pillars of molten gas surrounded the ship. They were orbiting a dying sun. "Where are we?" he asked. Lyra replied, "Above Velora's heart." "Our star," she added, her voice filled with sadness. "It is dying. Just like my people." Evan looked out amazed. The ship floated like a cathedral among burning clouds. "So this is your home," he said. She shook her head. It was not anymore. Lyra walked to a console that seemed to breathe like a living creature. When she touched it, images appeared in the air. Memories of her world before the fall. Evan watched cities made of crystal, oceans that glowed at night. Then darkness spread like ink, swallowing everything. A voice filled the room, deep and mechanical. The experiment failed. The cost was life itself, Evan frowned. "What experiment?" Lyra whispered. "The one that began us." She looked at him with eyes full of regret. "We tried to create perfect life and beings that never die, never age, never suffer. But we failed. Our creation turned against us." Her hand trembled as she showed him a new image. It was Earth, glowing blue, surrounded by data lines connecting it to Velora's history. Evan's breath caught. "What is this?" "The link," Lyra said. "Your world was touched by our experiment long ago." "You mean humans?" "Yes," she said quietly. "You are our children. Our lost branch." Evan stepped back. Unable to speak, the idea was impossible, and yet everything began to make sense. The message, the DNA, the strange connection between them. Lyra continued. "Your people survived because you forgot us, but now the cycle begins again." Before Evan could respond, the ship's lights flickered. The AI's cold voice returned. "Forbidden experiment detected. Subject evolving beyond control." A red alarm flashed through the room. Lyra's eyes widened. "It senses your change." Evan felt his body burning again. His skin shimmered, and a strange energy pulsed through his veins. He grabbed the edge of the bed, gasping, "What's happening?" "Your human DNA is merging faster than expected," Lyra said, panic in her voice. "You're becoming something new?" The AI voice grew louder. "Contain the hybrid. Eliminate contamination." Walls began to shift, forming into silver blades and barriers. Lyra ran to him, pulling him close. "Hold on," she said. "I won't let them take you." She placed her palm on his chest, and light spread from her hand into his heart. The burning stopped, replaced by a deep calm. For a moment, everything was silent. Then Evan heard voices, not from outside but inside his mind. Whispers, thousands of them, calling his name. He saw flashes of places he'd never been, faces he didn't know. Lyra's voice echoed faintly through the noise. You can hear them now, she said softly. The memories of all who came before. Evan looked at her in shock. I'm hearing your people? She nodded. Their essence lives inside you now. He shook his head. I don't want this. She took his hand gently. You were chosen because you can bear it. The AI voice came again, angrier now. Terminate the hybrid before the cycle continues. The walls began to close in. Glowing red, Lyra pressed a crystal on her wrist, and a hidden door opened behind her. Run! She shouted, pulling Evan through it. They rushed into a tunnel of light that led deep into the ship's core. Every step felt heavier as the voices grew louder inside his mind. He stumbled, holding his head. I can't control it. Lyra turned, her face close to his. Listen to them, not with fear, but with heart, she whispered. Among those voices, you will find the truth. He closed his eyes, breathing slowly. The noise faded, replaced by one clear voice, Lyra's husband. He spoke softly in Evan's mind. Protect her, for she carries the last seed of life. Evan opened his eyes, realization dawning. He turned to Lyra, who looked both shocked and relieved. You heard him, she said. Evan nodded. He said to protect you. She smiled faintly. Then he has forgiven me, the ship suddenly roared. Throwing them to the ground outside the window, beams of red light tore through the void. The AI screamed one final warning. Hybrid breach detected. Evolution imminent. Lyra looked at Evan, her eyes glowing like stars. Now it begins, she whispered. The forbidden experiment continues. The ship drifted through the dark space. Far from any sun inside, silence filled the long metallic halls, broken only by the soft hum of fading power. Dr. Evan Cross sat against a wall, breathing hard, his body still shaking from the last transformation. His veins glowed faintly under his skin, tracing patterns of light like a living map. Lyra stood a few steps away, her face pale and unreadable. Her hands trembled as she touched the wall, whispering ancient Valoran codes to keep the ship alive. Evan finally spoke, his voice low and tired. What's happening to me? Lyra didn't turn to face him. You're changing faster than I hoped, she said softly. The fusion between us has begun. Evan stared at his reflection in a cracked mirror panel. His eyes now glowed fully blue. His breath shimmered in the cold air. He didn't feel human anymore. Yet he didn't feel alien either. What am I becoming? He asked. Lyra looked back at him, her eyes wet with sadness. You are becoming the bridge, the one who can stand between both worlds. He shook his head. You used me, didn't you? Lyra closed her eyes, her voice almost breaking. I had no choice, she whispered. Evan's heart pounded, anger rising. No choice. You changed my DNA, risked my life, and dragged me into your dying war. Lyra stepped closer. I did it because without you, both our worlds would die. Her voice cracked. The plague that destroyed Valora, it's already inside Earth's air. Evan froze. The words hit him like a storm. What did you say? The same molecular code that killed my people has been sleeping in your atmosphere for centuries, she said. It came when our ancestors seeded your planet with our first experiments. Now it's waking up again. He felt dizzy, unable to believe it. So humanity is already infected? Not yet, she said quickly, but it will spread soon, unless we stop it together. Before he could reply, the ship's alarm blared again. Red lights flashed and the walls vibrated. The voice of the ancient AI echoed like thunder. Unauthorized fusion detected. Genetic violation of cosmic law. Calling the Star Council. Lyra's eyes widened in horror. No, she whispered. They found us. Evan frowned. Who are they? The Star Council, she said, trembling. The ancient guardians of all life. They punished my world for breaking creation law. Outside the window, bright lights appeared, ships, hundreds of them. Surrounding the Valoran craft, their golden armor shone like miniature suns. Evan felt a deep fear. A voice inside his head whispered, They are here to erase you. Lyra turned to him, her expression hardening. They will destroy us both if they see what we've become. A deep voice filled the ship. Clear and commanding, Lyra of Valora, you stand accused of forbidden creation. Release the human hybrid at once, Lyra shouted back. He is innocent. He didn't choose this. Then he must be erased, the voice replied. Calm and merciless, Evan's heart raced. What do they mean, erase? Lyra grabbed his hand. They will burn every cell of your body until nothing remains. He stared at her, realizing this was no trial. It was execution. What do we do? She looked into his eyes. "We run." With a wave of her hand, the ship's lights flared. Engines roared as energy flooded the core. The ship turned sharply and dived into hyperspace, leaving the glowing armada behind. The stars stretched into lines, then disappeared into darkness. Evan stumbled, holding onto a railing. "You just started a war." Lyra shook her head. "No, I ended one long ago. Now we only run from its echo." He glared at her. "Why didn't you tell me all of this before?" Her voice cracked. "Because you would have never helped me." "You lied to me," he said. "Yes," she whispered. "But I also saved you." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the soft hum of the ship filled the silence. Then Evan said quietly, "Tell me the truth now, then why do you need a human husband?" Lyra looked down, her blue hair falling over her face. "Our race cannot reproduce," she said. "The energy that binds our life has faded. Your kind has what we lost, adaptability. But it's not just about survival," she added slowly. "It's about redemption." Evan frowned. "Redemption? Our creation destroyed life," she said, "but a union with your kind could create balance again." He felt his anger fade into confusion. "And if it fails?" Lyra looked at him sadly. "Then everything dies, both Vyloran and human." Suddenly, the ship jolted again, alarms flashing red. "We're being tracked," Lyra said, panic in her eyes. Evan ran to the console. "Can we fight them?" "No," she said. "We're out of power." She pressed her palm to a glass orb and a glowing map appeared. "There's one place they cannot follow. The hidden moon." "The what?" "A lost Vyloran outpost. Forgotten by the council," she said. "If we reach it, we might have a chance." The ship entered a narrow tunnel of blue light. Escaping the chasing fleet, Evan looked back through the window, seeing beams of golden energy tearing through space. "We won't make it," he said. Lyra smiled faintly. "You forget, you're not fully human anymore." She placed her hand on his chest again, her energy flowing into him. The ship responded instantly, glowing brighter, faster. Evan felt his heartbeat match the rhythm of the engines. For the first time, he realized the ship was connected to him too. "I can feel it," he whispered. "It listens to you now," Lyra said. "Because you carry my energy." They broke through the last wall of light and fell into silence. The stars returned, and before them floated a massive dead moon. Covered in glowing ruins, Lyra smiled weakly. "We made it." Evan looked at her, his anger softening. He wanted to speak, to ask if any of this could ever end peacefully. But before he could, Lyra fell to her knees. Gasping, "Lyra," he shouted, catching her. Her glow was fading fast. She whispered, "The bond. It's draining me. I gave you too much energy." "Hold on," he said desperately. "Don't you dare die now," she smiled faintly, her eyes half closed. "You still don't understand." "Evan," she murmured, "you are no longer the experiment, you are the cure." And with those words, the moon's surface below them began to light up, ancient runes waking after thousands of years. The ship trembled as something deep within the moon answered their arrival. Evan looked out the window, his heart pounding. "What did we just awaken?" He whispered. The moon's surface cracked open. A beam of light shot into the sky, and a deep, thunderous voice echoed through the stars. The cycle must not repeat. The Vyloran ship hovered over the cracked moon, silent and trembling. Below them, lines of glowing light spread across the surface like veins awakening after centuries of sleep. The symbols pulsed brighter and brighter until they formed a massive circle that looked alive. Dr. Evan Cross stood by the window. Speechless, he had seen storms, volcanoes, even the destruction of cities on Earth, but this was different. This felt like the universe itself was watching. Lyra lay weak in his arms, her blue glow fading. Her breathing was shallow, her voice a whisper. "You shouldn't have come here," she said softly. "The hidden world remembers everything." Evan looked down at her, his voice trembling. "What is this place?" She turned her head slowly toward the window, her eyes glassy. "It's the first Vyloran colony," she whispered. Where life was born and destroyed, the ship's engines hummed. Lowering them gently toward the surface, Evan could feel the energy rising through his body, reacting to the light below. It wasn't just the ship responding, and it was him. The ship obeyed his thoughts now, moving like an extension of his will. He landed it near a giant temple carved into the moon's surface. The walls were covered with glowing symbols and faces frozen in stone. Each statue looked half human, half alien. their eyes filled with eternal sadness. Evan helped Lyra to her feet and they stepped outside. The air was thin but breathable, filled with soft blue mist that shimmered like glass dust. As they walked, each step echoed through the ruins like a heartbeat. "Why did your people abandon this place?" he asked quietly. Lyra brushed her fingers along an old stone tablet. "Because we were afraid of what we created," she said. This was where the first hybrids were born. Evan froze. "Hybrids? Like me?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but they didn't survive." Her voice trembled as she continued. "They were too strong, too aware, too close to the truth. The Star Council destroyed them before they could evolve." Evan looked around at the carvings. The walls told stories in glowing light. A tall figure surrounded by stars. A child glowing brighter than any sun. And then destruction, ships raining fire, planets crumbling. He could almost feel the screams of those who had lived here. "This was a massacre," he whispered. Lyra closed her eyes. "It was," she said. "And it will happen again unless we change the ending." As they moved deeper into the temple, the air grew warmer. Blue crystals floated in midair, each one humming softly. Evan reached out to touch one. And suddenly, memories flooded his mind. He saw Lyra's people laughing, building cities, creating new life with pride and hope. Then he saw them collapse, burning under the same light that once gave them power. He gasped, pulling his hand back. "They tried to play God," he whispered. Lyra nodded, and paid the price. At the heart of the temple was a massive sphere of light, suspended above a circular pool of glowing water. It pulsed like a living heart, and its light reflected on their faces. "This is the core," Lyra said softly. "The memory of every Valoran soul is stored here." Evan stepped closer. Drawn to it, the whispers in his mind returned. Louder this time. Thousands of voices calling his name. He pressed his hand to his chest. "I can hear them again," Lyra's voice broke. "They know who you are now." The light grew brighter, and a deep ancient voice filled the chamber. "Hybrid of Earth, child of two worlds. You were not meant to exist." Evan looked around, unable to tell where the voice came from. "Who are you?" he shouted. "I am the guardian of the first code," it answered. "The one who erased the forbidden race." Lyra fell to her knees, tears glowing on her cheeks. "Please," she begged. "We didn't come to repeat the sin. We came to correct it." The voice rumbled with sorrow. "Correction is impossible. Balance was broken long ago." Evan stepped forward, his voice shaking. "If balance is broken, then make a new one," he said. "Destroying life again won't fix anything." The Guardian's light flickered, as if uncertain. "Your kind were born from our mistakes," it said. "Why should you be trusted to fix them?" Evan clenched his fists. "Because we learned to live with our flaws," he said. "That's what makes us human." Lyra looked up at him. Her eyes wide with emotion, she whispered. "You sound like him." Evan turned. "Who?" She smiled weakly. "My husband." The Guardian's light dimmed for a moment. Then the chamber floor cracked open, revealing a deep pit filled with swirling blue energy. "If you truly seek balance, step into the source," the voice said. "But know this. One of you must stay behind to keep the core stable." Lyra looked at Evan, her expression soft and full of sadness. "You know what this means," she whispered. He shook his head. "No. There has to be another way." She smiled faintly. "There never is." Before he could stop her, she walked toward the edge of the pit. Her body began to glow, brighter than ever before. Evan grabbed her arm. "Lyra, please." She touched his cheek gently, her voice soft as wind. "You are the bridge, Evan. But every bridge needs an anchor." Her tears shimmered like stars. "Let me be that anchor." He held her tightly, but she smiled through the pain. "Protect our child," she whispered. Evan froze. "Our child?" She nodded weakly. "The ritual created life, a seed of both of us. It sleeps within the core, waiting to be born." Before he could speak again, she stepped into the light. The entire temple shook. The core exploded with energy. A blinding wave of blue light shot through the ruins, rising into the sky. Evan fell to the ground, shielding his eyes. When the light faded, the pit was empty. Lyra was gone. Only her voice remained, echoing softly through the chamber. "Do not grieve, Evan. Life is not ending, it is beginning again." He looked up at the glowing core, tears streaming down his face. The sphere pulsed once, then opened, revealing a small floating orb of light. It drifted gently toward him, glowing with warmth inside it. He saw the faint outline of something. Small, fragile, alive, a child. Evan fell to his knees, holding the light close. His voice broke as he whispered, "Lyra." Outside, the moon's surface began to heal. The symbols glowed brighter, forming a new message across the ruins. From death comes life again. Evan looked up at the stars, his tears shining like glass, and for the first time he didn't feel alone. The ruins of the hidden moon lay silent. The wind moved slowly through the glowing cracks of stone. Whispering Lyra's name, Dr. Evan Cross stood alone in the temple's heart, clutching the small orb of light against his chest. Inside that fragile sphere, the outline of a tiny life flickered softly, a heartbeat born of two worlds. He looked up at the core above him, still glowing faintly. It pulsed like it was alive, sending waves of warmth through the air, but the once bright temple now felt empty, heavy with loss. Lyra was gone, her voice only a faint echo that drifted through the air like a dream. Evan knelt beside the glowing water, his reflection strange and half alien now. His eyes were brighter than before, his skin faintly blue under the dim light. He touched the surface of the water, and it rippled with energy, showing visions of her. Lyra's smile, her voice, her tears, all playing like a memory across the liquid light. He whispered, "You said I was the bridge." His voice cracked. "Then I'll finish what you started." He placed the orb in a small chamber beside the core. Immediately the walls glowed again and a soft hum filled the air. The ship's AI voice echoed faintly through the ruins. Hybrid link detected. Seed activation commencing. Evan stepped back as the orb rose higher. Surrounded by silver light, the child was growing, its energy connecting to the moon's ancient systems. Outside, the once dead moon began to stir. Blue light spread through the valleys and canyons. Old machines awakened, releasing waves of air and warmth. It was as if the entire world was coming alive again. Evan smiled faintly, but deep inside, fear twisted his heart. He didn't know if this was life or another beginning of destruction. He remembered Lyra's last words, "Protect our child." But from what? A sudden tremor shook the ground. Evan looked up as the light in the sky turned gold. Dozens of ships appeared above the moon, descending fast. He recognized their shape immediately. The Star Council. They had found him. The AI voice returned, louder this time. "Warning, hostile fleets approaching, planetary core unstable." Evan clenched his fists, his mind racing. He couldn't fight an entire armada. He wasn't a soldier. But as the tremors grew stronger, something strange happened. The child's energy reached out. A wave of warmth and calm spread through his mind. A voice, soft and gentle, whispered inside his head. "Do not fear, Father." He froze, staring at the glowing sphere. The child was speaking to him, not with words, but directly into his mind. "You can hear me," he whispered. "Yes," the voice answered. "Mother's essence lives within me, and through you, I live too." Evan felt his knees weaken. He couldn't breathe for a moment, overwhelmed by emotion. "Your mother," he whispered. The voice interrupted gently. "She is not gone. She became the light that feeds this world." Outside, the Star Council ships began to fire beams of golden light toward the moon. Explosions lit up the surface. Shaking the ground beneath his feet, Evan looked toward the sky, his anger and sorrow blending into something new. He stood up, his hands glowing with the same energy as the child's. "You're not destroying this," he shouted, his voice echoing through the ruins. The core pulsed as if responding to him. A massive beam of blue energy shot upward, hitting one of the Council's ships. The blast didn't destroy it. It froze it in midair, holding it still like a fly trapped in amber. Evan felt the power flowing through him like a river. He wasn't controlling it, the child was. "Stop them," he said quietly. The voice replied, "Not with anger, Father." With truth, the beam of light changed, shifting from blue to white suddenly. Every ship above stopped firing. A holographic field appeared around the moon, and through it, Evan could see the faces of the Council. Tall, radiant beings made of light and gold, their leader spoke, his voice deep and filled with authority. "Human hybrid, you carry forbidden energy. Surrender it now." Evan shook his head. "This energy is not forbidden," he said firmly. "It's life." The leader's tone darkened. "Life that violates the laws of creation must be purged." Evan stepped forward, his hands still glowing. Then your laws are broken, he said, because life finds a way to continue even when gods abandon it. The child's voice joined his, echoing across the communication field. Your fear created destruction. Our love created balance. The council fell silent, their forms flickering like candles in wind. For the first time, doubt crossed their faces. One of them whispered, "Impossible, the hybrid speaks with both hearts." The child's glow spread wider, reaching out toward the council's ships instead of attacking. It sent waves of calm energy, showing them visions. They saw Valora's destruction, the plague, the death, and then the birth of new life through Lyra's sacrifice. Evan watched as their golden light dimmed, replaced by soft silver hues. Finally, the leader lowered his head. "Perhaps we were wrong," he said slowly. Evan's chest tightened with emotion. He looked up at the sky filled with ships and whispered, "Then help us save what's left." The council's ships stopped firing. Their lights turned blue, the sign of peace. But before relief could settle in, the core pulsed violently. The AI's voice screamed through the temple. "Warning! Hybrid energy overload! Planetary rupture imminent!" Evan's eyes widened. "No, not now," the child's voice spoke again. "Weak now, father. I cannot hold it much longer." Evan ran to the core, touching the glowing surface. "Take my energy," he said. "No," the voice replied. "If you give too much, you'll die." "I've already died once," he said softly. "Let me finish this." He placed both hands on the core. Closing his eyes, light exploded through the chamber. His veins glowed brighter than ever, his heartbeat merging with the pulse of the core. He felt Lyra's presence again, warm and kind, surrounding him like sunlight. "Evan," her voice whispered. "You kept your promise," he smiled weakly. "Always." The energy spread from his body to the core, stabilizing it. The tremors stopped, the light turned calm. Above, the council's ships watched as the moon began to heal itself. The surface turned smooth, the cracks closing. The core pulsed one final time, sending a signal across the stars. It was not a cry for help, it was a message. "Life continues." Evan collapsed beside the core. Exhausted but alive, the child's voice whispered one last time. "You are safe now, father." He looked up, smiling faintly through tears, and then the light faded, leaving the temple in peaceful silence. Silence returned to the ancient moon. The stars above shimmered like distant watchers. Glowing softly in the darkness, Dr. Evan Cross lay on the cold temple floor, his breathing slow and shallow. The light around him had faded, but warmth still lingered in the air. He felt alive, but not the same. He was no longer only human. He was something new, something between both worlds. Beside him, the core pulsed softly, calm and steady. The small orb and the child floated above it, glowing like a gentle star. Its light painted the stone walls in shades of silver and gold. Evan reached out weakly, his voice a whisper. "Are you still here?" The child's voice echoed softly in his mind.
"Yes, Father, I am here." He smiled faintly.
The pain in his body was gone, replaced by a strange peace outside. The moon's surface had transformed. The once dead world now shimmered with rivers of light, forests of crystal and air that sparkled like morning mist. It was alive again, he whispered to himself. "Lyra, you did it." Her voice drifted gently through his thoughts, soft and loving. "No, we did it." He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he saw her standing there, glowing, smiling, surrounded by stars. She reached out a hand that shimmered with blue fire. "You kept your promise," she said. He nodded, his voice trembling. "I couldn't let your sacrifice fade," she smiled. "It never will." And just like that, her image dissolved into light, merging with the air around him. Evan stood slowly, his body weak but steady. He looked around the chamber, and it was no longer ruins. The walls had rebuilt themselves, glowing symbols flowing like water. The air hummed softly with life. He walked toward the core, where the child hovered silently. "What happens now?" he asked. The voice replied, "Now we live." As they spoke, a bright beam of energy rose from the core, shooting straight into the sky. The stars responded, one by one they turned blue, forming a glowing web across the galaxy. Evan watched in awe. "What is this?" "The awakening," the child said. "Across the stars, the Valoran seeds are reactivating. Worlds once dead will breathe again." Tears filled Evan's eyes. Lyra's dream had come true, not through power or control, But through love and unity, he fell to his knees. Overwhelmed by emotion, he had lost so much. Yet something beautiful had been born, human and Valoran, life joined by choice, not by command. Suddenly the temple doors opened. A group of figures stepped inside, tall, golden beings of light. The Star Council had returned. But this time their glow was softer, peaceful. Their leader approached, his voice humble. "Dr. Evan Cross." "The cycle is complete." Evan looked up, cautious but calm. "You came to destroy me once," he said. The leader nodded. "We came to judge, but instead, we learned." He looked at the core, then at Evan. "You showed us what creation truly means." He extended a hand, glowing with golden light. "Let us help you rebuild." Evan stood, surprised by the warmth in the being's voice. For the first time, the council did not feel like gods, but like equals. Together, they stepped outside the temple. The sight before them took their breath away. The moon had changed completely. A living world now, full of color and motion. Blue trees swayed in the soft wind. Glowing rivers flowed between shining hills. Creatures of light and shadow roamed freely, newly born from the core's energy. It was not Vialora anymore, and not Earth. It was something new, a home for both. The leader of the council spoke softly. "This world will be named Novora, the new beginning." Evan looked at the glowing horizon, his heart full of hope. He whispered, "Lyra would have loved this." Her voice drifted again, faint but full of peace. "I am here, always." The child floated beside him, its light pulsing softly. "Father," it said, "what will become of Earth?" Evan looked toward the stars where his home once was. "I'll return," he said. "They need to know the truth." The child tilted its glowing head. "What truth?" "That life doesn't belong to one world or one race," he said. "It belongs to everyone who dares to protect it." The council members nodded in silent agreement. They raised their hands, sending energy through the stars. A massive gate of light opened in space, connecting Novora to Earth. Through it, Evan could see blue oceans, clouds, and green continents shining in sunlight. His eyes filled with tears. He could go home, but a part of him whispered, home wasn't just Earth anymore. The child drifted closer, glowing brighter. "You will not be alone," it said. Evan smiled. "I know." He reached out, touching the child's light. It shimmered, forming a faint human-like shape. A young figure with glowing eyes. He could see both Lyra's kindness and his own strength reflected in it. "Go," he said softly. "The future belongs to you now." The child smiled. "And to you, Father." Evan walked toward the gate of light. Every step echoed with memories. The first message, the fear, the discovery, the love, and the loss. When he reached the edge, he looked back one last time. The moon shone behind it. Alive and beautiful," he whispered. "Thank you, Lyra." As he stepped through, the stars around him shifted. He found himself above Earth, watching it from the ship's window. The world looked peaceful, unaware of how close it had come to destruction. He touched the glass, smiling faintly. "Maybe they'll never know," he said softly. "But they'll feel it. The change." Below him, cities glowed brighter. Forests healed. The oceans shimmered with strange new light. The infection Lyra had warned about was gone, erased by the child's energy. Humanity had been saved, not by war or technology, but by a union no one believed possible. The ship's console flickered, displaying one final message written in the Valoran code. It translated slowly into English. "The bridge has been built." Evan closed his eyes, feeling Lyra's presence beside him once more. Her voice was a whisper carried through the stars. The human husband fulfilled the vow of the stars. He smiled through tears, his heart full. Outside, the galaxy glowed in blue light, life spreading across systems once thought dead, and far beyond the stars, in the quiet darkness of space, another signal began to flicker. It was soft at first, then clear. "We seek one human female." The cycle was not ending. It was beginning again, but this time it carried hope, not fear, a promise that life, no matter how forbidden, would always find a way.